Now, obviously, I create the model, I work on this model, and I do it so that I also need to report on this project. Now, I can take the model and drop it out to Excel if I choose. So I could take the model and say, well, I want to take the results of this budget that I've been working on, drop it to Excel because we're going to do some other reporting off of it, or we want to do something else with this cost. Or, as we said earlier, I want to design a report. I would venture to say most of you on this call who've had an opportunity to review software products probably are not used to having someone demonstrate a report designer to you, and it's usually because software companies like to run and hide from the report designers because they're too complex and too difficult to use. Here, it's very straightforward. So I can give this report a name. We can call it we'll call it Friday with Trimble. And I can go in, I can select a background. And again, you can create a number of different backgrounds here, or you could choose from a template. You could also have a very customized spreadsheet, and you could say, I want a cover sheet to my report. And you could select from, a certain pattern. You might want an image of the model if you had a sketch. You might want some images of the supporting projects. Again, you can select from a template of included cover pages, or you actually have the ability to create your own cover page. I probably want this report to look professional, so I want a table of contents for this report. Then I want to then on this report, after the cover page and table of contents, I want to print information about the model. So I'm going to say that this is the budget for for Seattle General, whatever it may be, Seattle General Hospital, whatever. But this is going to be about the model itself. So I can introduce that concept. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to include information about just the model. And what's the way I want to look at that? Well, I want that spreadsheet view. So I'm going to come over here, and the system is pretty smart. It says, okay, so we're going to include this model cost information in a spreadsheet view. What do you want to show the client? And I could come over here and say, well, what I'm going to do is I'm going to give the client maybe doesn't understand CSI as well as they might understand a system view of this feasibility budget. So I'm going to give level 1 and 2. I might choose not to even show level 3 uniform because I don't want to communicate a level of accuracy that doesn't exist yet on this project. And I'm going to go ahead and show them the extended total. So I'm going to show them quantity. Hold on here. I'm going to show them quantity. And I'm going to show them the total unit cost and that extended total. So that's what I want to show on the model itself. Then I could introduce the concept of comparables. So I'm going to include information about the estimates that I used in the model. So I could say, whatever term you might want to use here. So I'll say supporting data, supporting project data, whatever it may be. And here I'm going to include information about the estimates. And I also want kind of that maybe that spreadsheet view. But here's where I have the flexibility to say, maybe for the supporting projects, what I'll do is do my quantity. Actually, in a supporting project, the client doesn't need to know what the quantities were. Maybe they're mostly interested in what those unit prices were. And I could choose to break this down maybe by division instead of system. Then I could also introduce another group and say, now I'm going to show the model side by side, model and supporting projects, maybe side by side view, and come in here and say, again, I want that spreadsheet view. And on this one, I'll go ahead and include quantity again. Excuse me. So I'll include quantity again and the total unit cost. And on this one, we'll do division, and then we'll do the major code within that division. And we'll accept that. And I also would like to show this client that graph that we looked at. So at the end of the day, I've got a report here that I've created, and if I look at that range graph, I even have the option here to say, I want that graph, graphically I want to represent the differences in unit prices, and I'm going to do it real summarized here just by uniform at level 1. So what you've seen me do here in 4 minutes, 5 minutes is design a report, and it's listed now over here on my list of reports called Friday with Trimble. If I go back to my Seattle Healthcare Center and I take my Friday with Trimble report and just drag it over and drop it on top of the model, I get a print preview. So I can see what this report might look like if I sent it directly to the printer. So I didn't attach an image to this project, otherwise it would show up here. But I can see my cover page. We'll get this out of the way here. I can see my table of contents. I can see the cost data for the Seattle Healthcare Center broken down by the level of detail I chose. I can see my Oak Brook Medical Center, and I can see that I'm looking at a more summarized view, and I can see each of my project budgets. I can see my side-by-side view, so I can see the Seattle Healthcare, Oak Brook, Fargo, Austin. I can see my side-by-side view, and eventually I see my graphical representation of those, so on and so forth, and that's because all of those things were in the report design that I created.